please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For us next is our approval of our agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move forward on the vote. All those in favor of approving our agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion to approve our agenda has carried. Next up is approval of the minutes for the work session and the regular board meeting and the annual meeting of September 25th. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. And the motion to approve our minutes has been approved. Now before us is our public participation. Anybody in the audience who wishes to address the board at this time, make your way to the podium. Seeing none, we will move forward to the superintendent's report. Dr. Murillo.
Thank you. Board President, at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Worthman to the podium. He is going to introduce our speaker for the evening. We will be updating you on the Head Start programming. As many of you know, you began to have a partnership last year with the Head Start in the Pottawatomie County area, serving those. And Dr. Worthman and I wanted to ensure that you got an update on where we are with our Head Start and also for the grant that we will be writing. So Dr. Worthman, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure tonight to turn the microphone over to Dr. Tracy Matthews. Tracy is our Director of Preschool Programming, and she oversees all 32 classrooms and early childhood programs, as well as our community partners who we work with on preschool, and she's also heading up the Head Start grant application. So she's going to provide some information about preschool programming tonight, as well as where we are headed with Head Start. So, Dr. Matthews.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity tonight. I'm really grateful to be able to provide more information to you about our pursuit to get more funding to serve more students in our community in high-quality full-day preschool programming. Tonight, I will specifically be sharing information with you about Head Start funding. I apologize. So the purpose of this pursuit of the Head Start grant is really to help us support the academic plan goal 2, which is to increase our enrollment of 4-year-olds to 560 students by the 2020 school year. When reviewing our recent enrollment history, you will notice we are consistently serving approximately 500 students, give or take 20 each year for the past 3 years. You will notice the number of 3-year-olds or the number of 4-year-olds may differ slightly from year to year, and that's really dependent on the needs of those children coming in, either from early access with IEPs as 3-year-olds, or being served maybe not in our full-day programs as 4-year-olds, but in other programs based on their needs. Per child find mandates, we will continue to add to the 2018-19 enrollment as we continue to screen children each month to determine eligibility for our services. We do have to reserve some spots for them, so you will see that enrollment number continue to climb if there are reports at later dates. As we continue to attempt to close the gap between students who receive no preschool and those who are receiving preschool either in our district or in those community preschools, we realized that we are going to have to explore additional funding sources. Currently, we do not have enough space available to serve 564-year-olds by 2020, so we're going to have to look at options for funding to get more space and also to fund the programs. This table shows what our current enrollment capacity is. If you look at that top number, 352, that is how many 4-year-olds we can serve in a full day preschool program in our classrooms. Below that, we can serve an additional 186 students in a partial day program, and that could be a half-day program or a 3/4 day program, and that is determined based on the needs of the students. So sometimes if they aren't eligible for a full day per our grant requirements, we can still offer that half-day program. Or if their IEP dictates it and they need a 3/4 day specialized program, then we have that available to offer too. That gives us a total of 538 seats within our schools. We do have an additional 60 slots available at our community partner sites at the YMCA and at Children's Center. Next, we'll take a look at our current reality with Head Start. We currently have a contract with West Central Community Action Agency to serve 98 students in our classrooms using Head Start funding. Those students are those who are at or below the 130% poverty level, and we serve them in 14 classrooms in 5 of our schools. We primarily target 4-year-olds with this funding, but we do also serve 3-year-olds in 1 classroom each at Edison and at Franklin Elementary. The terms of our contract with West Central Community Action stipulate we will receive just over $4,000 per Head Start eligible student, not to exceed almost $400,000. You can see the figures there. So that is for the full 98 students. We are full at 98 students in those slots right now. Part of our partnership also says that we will have a Head Start education support coordinator provided to us to provide training to us on Head Start standards and also to act as a liaison between our district and West Central Community Action, and that is not something that has been fulfilled by West Central. They do provide us 2 family advocates. In our contract last year, that number was supposed to be 3. They were never able to provide us the 3 family advocates to help support these needy families due to decreased funding. They have not met their enrollment requirements with the federal government, which has resulted in a loss of funding for their organization. Which brings us to the funding sources we do have available to us for our preschool programming. We currently use a combination of 7 different funding types, as you can see on the screen in front of you. And we use those to provide that high quality preschool programming for as many 4-year-olds as possible. Each 4-year-old we have enrolled in our programs generates a weighted 0.5 per pupil funding. So that is that statewide voluntary preschool program funding. In order to maintain our status as high quality preschool programs and to continue receiving that funding source from the state, we will continue to have licensed teachers with bachelor's degrees or greater in our preschool classrooms. Even though that's not a Head Start requirement, it is one that we will continue to pursue for the state guidelines to get that funding. So what we do is we weave all of these funding sources together. We use the method the state refers to as braided funding to do that. And that practice is highly encouraged by the state because they know it allows us to use those multiple funding sources to stretch our funding and provide that high quality preschool experience for more students than would have access otherwise. So you're probably wondering why I'm sharing all of this with you tonight. And the reason for that is because this is a really large grant. It's a large amount of money. And it's the first time we as a district have ever applied for this type of grant. So I wanted to be sure that you were fully informed of where we've been in this process. The funding opportunity announcement for this 5-year grant cycle was just released on September 26th. And the grant covers Head Start and early Head Start services in 10 counties in southwest Iowa. The current grant held by West Central Community Action was originally written to serve 357 Head Start children in all 10 counties. The Office of Head Start is willing to award up to 3 separate grants for services to different portions of the covered area. So what we are proposing is an application that would serve approximately 130 3 and 4-year-olds in Council Bluffs, Carter Lake, and Crescent. Receiving this grant would allow us to continue serving those 98 students we're already serving in Head Start slots with our contract with West Central, but we would then be the owners of the grant, and then add an additional 32 slots. So we would be expanding our programming. We do believe that there would be further opportunity to expand services to more students if appropriate space for early childhood classrooms would become available. The total amount we plan to apply for is approximately $2 million per year. This number was arrived at after working through the budget proposal of the grant application to cover the costs needed to appropriately administer and provide support services using the Head Start philosophy. For those of you who aren't familiar, this dollar amount probably seems pretty high for per pupil, but it's because the Head Start programming is about more than just education. It is about providing those additional wraparound services to the child and to the whole family that's enrolled in this program in order to ensure their health, their welfare, their nutritional, and of course also their educational needs are being met. With this grant, a non-federal match is also required, a 20% non-federal match, and we are able to just hold aside 20% of our requested amount from our statewide funds and use that as match. It's not quite as simple as that. I saw Mr. Wilson give me a look. He will help us find that match. But we have those funds available. It won't have to come out of the general budget for K-12. It is something we can use our preschool dollars to support. So now I will talk to you a little bit about the application process. This journey started back in the spring. Even though the grant application wasn't released yet, we started working with a grant writer who is very knowledgeable and successful in previously taking over a Head Start grant for a school district. And the application has 7 main sections. It's a very extensive application. We started by identifying the need in our community. So we sent out surveys to families with young children in our community, and then also to healthcare providers, mental health providers, dental providers, to see where there might be gaps in services so we can see how we could support that with the whole child. We also have sections that are related to the early learning and development outcomes, past performance as an organization, staffing, planning and implementation, organizational capacity and governance, and then of course the budget and budget justification. Again, we've been collaborating with a grant writer and working through this process as we look at how we can best use these funds to serve more students in our community. And this brings us to our timeline. The application due date is November 26th, so we would like to bring a resolution to the board at the November 13th meeting. At that time, we would provide a summary and give you all of the information you would need. Because grants like this are awarded to the Board of Education, we would want to give you that opportunity to review. And then there is a required page in the grant that must be signed by the board president to attest that our organization collaborated with an external grant writing agency to develop this application. And that's put in place as a safeguard for our organization, so nobody can write a grant on our behalf without our knowledge. We would take any feedback and suggestions you have at that time and make revisions within the next week with a target submission date of November 20th. We know that sometimes if you wait until the last minute, technology doesn't always work on your side, so we want to make sure we get our application in prior to that November 26th deadline. That is the update I have for you. What questions do you have for me?
Any questions from the board?
I have one. Does Head Start require a 1-to-7 teacher-pupil ratio?
It does not.
Well, that class size is pretty attractive there, wasn't it?
We use a 1-to-8 ratio for our preschool programming.
Well, you had 14 classrooms for 98 kids.
No, we spread the slots out, so there might be 5 Head Start students and an additional 11 students funded with other sources. So there's a total of 16 preschool slots.
I see, just not
Yes,
classroom.
thank you for the clarification. I apologize. That was
So what would
misleading.
the average class size be for a preschool room?
For a general education classroom, it's 16.
16, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
When will
There you
you
go.
find out the grant? What's the
They
timeline?
anticipate beginning negotiations in the spring, so hopefully we would have good
Yeah,
news then.
that'd be great.
So then, with this program, then you'd have, we're getting right now 400,000 in funds for the 98 students, correct? There's no additional funding for those students. And so we're gonna go to essentially getting an extra $2 million, putting in our own 4. And we go up to 18,000 a student to be able to spend a
Oh.
year on all the services, all the wraparound and everything?
Well, Mr. Arthur, it's, some of the reasons that we don't receive more than 4,000 is because West Central carries the administration of it. We would have to become the administrators of this grant, which means we would have to hire additional employees. It would be a per pupil allocation of about 15,000, I think is what we came up with. And in that, still, we will have what I call indirect charges, was a term that we used in my former district. And the grant writer that we're working with is someone that helped us achieve this in my former district of working with Head Start. And Julie Asel is top-notch and is very, very knowledgeable. So some of this grant would have to go to, as you saw, those positions that Dr. Matthews stated before, the family advocate and some of the others. We will have to put those positions in place because we will be the LEA of this grant. So this grant will help us achieve the administration of it, plus the teacher staffing, equipment, supplies, and for the students that are in that program.
And then we would provide our own family advocates, our own coordinator, our own other things. And then, so you're asking for submission to approve the contract, or approve the submission of the grant on the end of October, beginning of November. But if there's edits, are you going to have to bring it back to the board?
You go back to that timeline for me, Dr.
It doesn't seem like it'd be time to have edits if you were going to have them.
Right. Because the grant is so extensive, I'm hoping that Ms. Asel can prepare an executive summary, is what she did for us.
That was the plan.
Great. And so with the executive summary, you guys will see a high-level kind of area for you to look at and be able to give us feedback. And then we can take that feedback, as long as it does not take us outside the parameters of us qualifying for, of receiving this grant. We can make those changes and submit that in the submission. But we have to adhere to so we can let you guys know what changes were made in a Friday note after the 13th that we bring it forward to you. But hopefully, the executive summary can go out for them to review, give us feedback before we get to the 13th. That will
Okay.
be the goal.
So if we receive the grant, we'll be able to serve 130 students who are at or below 130% of poverty. And do we know what additional need there is that meet that requirement in our community?
We currently serve more than 130 students who meet that requirement. We will continue to serve them in our other programs. For example, Shared Visions is one of our other funding sources, and those programs are located at Rue and Roosevelt, and 80% of the students enrolled in those programs also have to meet that 130% poverty level. So we know that we're going to continue serving those students even if it's outside of the Head Start grant. This just gives us
Okay.
more opportunity. They are also currently serving 36 students in the Head Start location on Madison Avenue. They have 60 slots available. So those are 36 students that, in theory, they'll possibly be in kindergarten next year, but there's more need out there that we could help provide services for.
I guess that's what I was kind of wondering, if we were able to serve any 4-year-old in our district, regardless of socioeconomic status, what is that unmet need? Do we know?
Dr. Wortman?
I mean, if we offered,
We have a pretty good idea. So if you remember, think about it this way. We have about 725 kids who enter kindergarten every year.
Mhm.
About 50% of those kids come through our preschool program at some point. Another 25% of those kids have preschool from a community provider, whether it's Iowa Western or St. Paul or St. Albert. There's about 25% of those kids who right now are kind of in that donut hole, that unmet need. So that's why we, that goal, if you go back to the original 560 by 2020, that's kind of the magic number for us. If we could get to 564-year-olds, we would be able to serve about, we would be able to say we're really about as close as we can get to universal pre-K in Council of Schools.
Without more space and more funding.
That 560 is assuming both of those.
Okay.
That we would need, that's
No,
kind of
just-
what we're up against right now is space. We know if we get the Head Start grant, we're gonna have to open up 2 new classrooms, which is gonna be a heavy lift of figuring out where we put 2 more classrooms. We know that there's more opportunity with the Head Start grant moving forward for us to increase beyond the 130, but we don't have space for preschool. Our buildings are full.
One more question. Regarding the wraparound services, could you just give an idea of what those look like?
Sure. So we work, or whoever is providing the service works directly with mental health providers, with dental providers, with doctors' offices to ensure that families have those needs met. They are making sure that families have adequate meals. They are making sure that if there are transportation issues or other barriers that are preventing children from accessing healthcare or education, that they are getting them in touch with the appropriate social service agencies or government agencies to get them the help and support they need. So they're acting in a capacity to kind of bridge the need with the service provider for that.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you.
We hope that all things go well. It looks like next we have our informational presentations with the update of our career pathways. And in front of you at the table here are the documents that were distributed at the kickoff breakfast last Wednesday. So we'll hear from Ms. Smith here to lead us in this discussion.
As Ms. Smith is setting up, I kind of like to set the stage for her. Before in different board meetings, I've talked about the career pathways and the work that Ms. Smith did with Deb. And I believe Deb Goodman was your main partner in this creation. And so she is going to walk us through so the board can kind of see what this booklet looks like, how this will be really put into the program of study and programs of study, and then the work that we're doing with administration, counselors, teachers. We are on the road right now, meeting with different groups and different faculty members. So I'm really excited, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that Julie led in this career pathway booklet. And so at this time, Ms. Smith, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. This is kind of opposite ends of the spectrum here before you. The last time that I was in front of you, we discussed advanced placement and concurrent enrollment classes and those opportunities for students. And those are really geared at four-year college-bound students and being able for them to achieve that year 13 prior to graduation. And so what we're talking about tonight, though, is really opportunities for kids whose goal may not be a four-year college path, but rather pathways for students to be prepared for careers upon completion of high school. So the booklet that you have in front of you provides, excuse me, provides students with information in a variety of career pathways that can be completed either at our high schools, on our campuses, or in conjunction with, with Iowa Western. And again, I would like to thank Deb Goodman for all of her work with this and her expert guidance in articulating the crosswalk between those two institutions. The purpose of this booklet is to provide students with guidance to discover and pursue their passions. And so we plan on using this very early with students, as early as 8th grade, with looking so they can start to look and see what's out there for me, what could I be interested, how is that going to look? And then it's also going to provide students with an opportunity to receive credentials for employment upon graduating from high school. That's what we're really looking at with this. So the booklet itself is divided into 5 pathways. And if you look at the table of contents, you're going to see what those pathways are. And those are the same pathways that we've been working with for some time. This isn't new about the pathways, okay? So then as you look further, for example, on page 4, you're going to see an overview of the pathway for applied sciences, technology, engineering, and manufacturing. And you're going to notice down there, there's 4 categories that fall under there. So there's engineering, automotive, manufacturing, and construction. And as you go across one of those categories, engineering, for example, you're going to see an option that says high school. And it's green. Every time you see green, you're going to see high school in this booklet. And those are the courses that we offer currently at our high schools in the area that is aligned with engineering that students can take on our campuses. To the right of that, you're going to see a certificate option. Certificate options are offered out at Iowa Western. Some categories have them, some don't. You'll see when they don't, it'll just say it's not applicable. But those are generally things students can take about a semester's worth of coursework and have a certificate in that area when they are finished with it. The next one is a diploma option. Diploma options are more hours, and they end up with what Iowa Western calls a diploma. And the last one is a degree option. The purple is a degree option, and degree options could be applied sciences, or they could be an associate's degree. So with that, if you flip over to the next page, the next kind of level on this is really within the category, with this particular example of the applied sciences, with that first category, engineering. And across, you'll see again in green, always high school in green, is more of a sequence of classes kids can take starting their freshman year. The sequence is going to include both high school requirements that are in there, things that they have to take to graduate from high school, and electives. Excuse me. And then as you go down, like for the certificate option, for example, you'll see what they can take in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. The difference here that you'll notice is that you see some of those classes are in italics. That means that those are offered on the campus of Iowa Western. If it's just plain font, those are classes offered on our campuses. Now, one thing I really want to point out is these are guidelines. These are not hard, fast rules. You don't see things in here like band. And that doesn't mean kids can't take band. They absolutely can take band. This really just outlines the classes that you either have to take in high school or that can lead you on this pathway. Okay? So it's not inclusive of everything, and it's meant to be used in conjunction with teachers and counselors to help guide kids about what they can see and how they can pursue some of their passions. So as you go through your book, you're going to see everything that is offered there, you know, and obviously those are your books to keep and look and peruse through. But really where we're at with this, to date we've had some information sharing sessions with administrators, with high school secondary administrators. We've had, with the secondary counselors, we've had sessions to share with them as well. We had an opportunity to be at Thomas Jefferson already, talking with the teachers there, and next week we'll be going to Abraham Lincoln to talk with them there. We will also go to Canesville, and we will meet with the 8th grade teachers at both Wilson and Kern. Then eventually these pages will be put, not eventually, this year when the program of studies come out, these pages will be included where our old career and technical information used to be. This will replace those. And so they can be used with counselors and parents, because parents all have those, get those as well when kids are going into their 9th grade year, to help plan courses of study. We do ask teachers to use these in advisement right now, between now and when the program of study comes out, as to confer with kids as they're talking about careers. It's what they do in advisement. It's part of what advisement is all about. And so this is a tool for them to use with students who might be interested in these areas. So with that, what questions may I answer for you?
When students take classes out in Iowa Western, freshmen can do that also? Does it have to be junior, seniors?
That is not what we would recommend as freshmen. As you look through the sequence here, we have introductory classes and coursework that would lead them to the more advanced coursework out at Iowa Western. So if you look, for example, on page 4, on page 5, under engineering and you look at our high school option, Project Lead the Way, which is offered at our high schools that kids can take there. Those are good introductory courses if you're trying to see and learn about these types of things. And that's what we would recommend for our 9th graders and 10th graders to be looking at as they are doing that. This is meant to also be pretty flexible. So say I'm a child that thinks, you know, I really want to go into this and I find I don't like it. You're going to see some of the same courses offered in different pathways, even within the different careers, because they are cornerstone type of classes. Not all, but some would be. So it doesn't allow, you don't have to, get on a pathway and stick through it too at 9th grade, but it allows you to explore your 9th grade year a whole lot more. So no, we don't look at sending 9th and 10th graders out to Iowa Western. That's what our trades academies are going to be for, is to really start to introduce some of these things.
So when it says certificate option, those English that have to take 2 credits math, those are
That's freshman English, that's our English classes.
So once again, Mr. Groves, if you look across there, when it starts to italicize, that's when we start moving our students to take the courses on the
clear
Iowa
over here
Western.
on the right.
Yes, clear over there.
Okay.
And most of the time, you will not see an italicized course until they get to their junior and senior year. The other piece that I think is really powerful that Ms. Smith has done is they have gone out to Iowa Western and met with Dr. Welsh, I believe, and she has gone through the booklet with us to ensure that this aligns. And hopefully you saw at the beginning, even a welcome letter from Dr. Kinney in the booklet. And I've met with him to walk him through this booklet.
Okay, that helps.
Does that make
Thank
sense? Okay, sorry.
I noticed that some of these have 6 credits in English as a junior and a senior.
Right.
What is that?
So as you go through the different options and you get into the, especially the applied science options, and if a student wanted to complete that while they were still within their 12th grade year, they're going to have to ramp up what they're taking in their freshman and sophomore year in order to do that to meet high school required classes. So you might see more social studies or government that's pushed down that they need to take earlier if they're going to complete an applied science degree, because that is quite rigorous. And that's probably not for all of our kids, but it really is for kids who, it's like, man, I really truly had that passion, that get-go, and I'm going to do all this ahead of time in order to get out there. But that's why we have so many options too. Because if you look at like certificate options or the diploma options, you don't have to do so much condensed work prior to that, and it fits in a little bit more with the regular workload kids would be doing, and it looks more elective class-like as they go on.
I just have 2 questions. The first question is, do we celebrate that success at our graduation with that certificate, or is that something that they celebrate at Iowa Western?
Oh, we'll just really celebrate it at our graduation.
There's a walking ceremony, and how do we?
We've been batting around ideas about how that would really look and how we want that to be, and we're getting into that right now where we're going to have some kids graduating with other things, and so we will absolutely be noting those kids and celebrating that at our graduations.
And they'll get to go to graduation at Iowa Western with that certificate as
Yeah.
well?
So there's a couple of things that I want to see happen with this. The honors night that we have for our seniors honors is, we will definitely make sure everyone knows that they've reached that piece, which we did last year, and gave the medallion to our 2 young men. They then get the invite from Iowa Western to walk at their
Cool.
graduation, which we had 2 that did last year, and we
Awesome.
should have 11 this year. And then we will also note them at our high school graduation.
Great.
So we're pretty excited about that. In
It's a
Kansas City.
huge accomplishment,
Yeah,
and they deserve to be rewarded
you
for
bet,
it,
and
so.
we will, yeah.
My second question is the plan of study for most of these pathways, and some of them are more rigorous than others. This would be more applicable for a student that may not be in any extracurricular activities or other courses that are taken during the day. You mentioned band earlier. And with changing of things as far as semesters, trimesters, it may be a little more difficult.
One of the things we'd really want to accomplish with this is to keep kids in school and not do half-days, and they'd really have that opportunity to do that. But just like with our ECA kids right now, they can still participate in some of the extracurricular activities. We have kids who are on the dance team, and that would not change for that. If their class location is out at Iowa Western, they're still afforded all of those opportunities to do that. We have kids in band who come to take band, and then they go out and do some classes. So it'd be very similar to that, depending on what level. I mean, at any level they could do that, but depending on how a student would want to set that up, they would have.
So there's flexibility, I
There's
guess. 'Cause I know,
flexibility
like,
in that.
band is first hour every semester, trimester, whatever it is, and that takes up, one section for them to take a class for this, and
Mhm.
I just don't want them to feel like they're excluded because they're choosing something else, or.
No, I mean, I think the nice thing is we already know it works because it's working right now. So if it works, it'll be able to work for more kids.
Okay.
For the diploma programs, the
Mhm.
senior year is very heavy. And for the degree programs, the junior and senior year both
Yes.
require a lot of courses to be completed in 1 year. To the point where, it really would take a very dedicated, committed student to make that happen. It's wonderful that there's a pathway to follow. I think that's always been something that would have been very useful to have, even when I was at the college and working with students. I just wonder if, a student who's really interested and wants to follow that pathway, but may not be able to do it exactly the way that it's laid out here, are there going to be resources for the guidance staff to really
Yes.
help students select, okay, if you can only take 6 courses this year, here's the 6 you would want
Yes,
to take.
absolutely.
And wait on these other general elective classes or whatever requirements they know are going to
Right.
be offered in a different term.
Right, absolutely. And the things that we've talked about with counselors, and we'll continue, this is a new process for them, and we'll continue to work with them on this, is that this is a guide.
Yeah.
So, so something that might say, boy, I need 2 full years out at Iowa Western. Well, you could do 1 year, your senior year, and you're well on your way. Then you only have 1 year at Iowa Western after you graduate, but you would still have that 13th year in there. So if you wanted an applied science degree, you could take whatever coursework your freshman through junior year, take your first year, your senior year, take that first year of Iowa Western, and then after you graduate, go out there, but you'd still be a year ahead.
Right.
So this is really meant, again, it's not hard, fast rules, but it's really meant to be used flexibly to have kids see what do I have to do to complete that, and maybe it would be 1 more year than that, or it would give me a good step on the way with that, so, yeah.
So in the diploma example, for instance, they might be able to say, well, as a junior, maybe I could take these courses that are offered in the fall semester
Sure.
at Iowa Western, and then my senior year, I'll take the spring courses that are offered, and over 2 years,
And what we'd have to make
complete a
really
diploma
sure is
program.
that they're offered at that time at Iowa Western.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
what the counselors would need
Right.
and would work with them on to say, well, sure you can because these are offered, but this isn't offered until this time, so how, so that
Right.
that's why we would really rely heavily on our counselors when they're working with kids to set class schedules, as they
Yeah.
do now, so this is.
it's a very, very valuable tool.
I just have one other question. So if we look at health science on page 29, the degree option for physical therapy assistant, there's 15 classes they have to take their 12th year. And I'm assuming they range from like 1 to 3 credits. I mean, I would not advise my college freshman to take 18 credit hours a semester. That just seems like a really heavy load.
Right.
And I want it to be achievable for them, but I don't want it to appear that it's,
But I think, and this could be an absolute
and they're all at Iowa
instance,
Western,
right?
right?
An
So they're not on
absolute
campus at
instance
all?
where you work and say, you know, this might not be what you get done by your 12th grade year,
Okay,
but how far down this path can we take you so when
Okay.
you do graduate, you just have this much more to do?
okay. And they're all at Iowa Western, so they
Yes.
wouldn't be on campus at their high school their senior year?
Well, and that's currently how Early College Academy is. But what we found with the Early College Academy, because the college courses are offered at different time, they can still go back and be in band class back, because remember, these students will still be coded as high school seniors.
And I think that's really important to stay focused on, because they're 17 and 18-year-old kids, and this is great. But I also don't want to take away from their senior year
No.
of high school either.
And we don't either.
I
This is,
understand.
this is just for, and the other piece that, if I can find the funding, is allow the students after their junior year to take summer classes.
Yeah. 'cause
And if there's
summer
some of them that
component
would
here.
like to take some summer classes, they can do that. And then their course load would be much less. With ECA, they do have to commit to summers.
So in the summer, when it's example again here,
Mhm.
is that on the student's responsibility, their senior year, their summer, after they've graduated?
Well, currently, we are covering those expenses and working with our Council Bluffs Community School Foundation, and they are helping us with covering those costs for our students.
Okay,
So there is no cost to the student or the district.
great. I just don't want to get them into a program and then.
You know, Jill, it made me really think at one point, one of the things we could do prior to putting this into the program of study is put 12+ at the end of it, so it doesn't just look like it has to be 12th
Great
grade year, but
idea.
what
Great
could you in
idea.
your 12+ year?
Because I don't want them to look at it and go, oh my gosh, I have to do all this my 12th
Right,
grade year.
and so that,
what if
so
I
for the,
fail
especially
or-"
for the degree options.
that's
Putting
where
in the
it's
plus
heavy.
on any of those, I
Mhm.
think that we could
Okay.
absolutely, that'd be a really quick, easy change to make,
Great.
so.
Yeah, good.
Good feedback,
you.
thank you.
So following up on Joe's question, I guess I'm confused then. Like I'm looking at one here, marketing, page 25. It has 11th grade, English electives, 9 credits. Math is 3 credits, that's 12 credit hours. And then it lists a bunch of those. Are you getting those credits because of those classes you're taking? Or is that on top of that, then I'm taking an extra 12 credits?
When it says English elective 9 credits?
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, and we're working in conjunction with the with the college, like, for example, Comp 1, that you can take that at AL. You could also take that at Iowa Western. And so because you need, in order to finish our requirements, they're going to need 9 electives of English. Our electives don't quite match up right now, so it's not 1 for 1. They need to take a little bit more. That's what that means in there. So they know they're going to have to take, on this pathway, they're going to have to take some English out there. And through working with counselors and advisements, like Comp 1 will count for 11th grade. Yeah, I mean, that's just an example. I'm not giving that
But
as
it's
a
not physically, they need to take 12 more credits in 11th or 12th grade. Because they don't need 12 credits for a regular high school diploma. They
Right,
need-
but
That's
they're
the
getting their
degree
degree.
requirement.
This
Right.
is a degree.
But like a 3-credit degree would be 1 college, how we are measuring it. Does that,
Right.
So this is showing you what they must
They're saying for the
achieve
degree,
for
they
the
need
degree.
12
That's
more,
correct.
which would be essentially 8 more
Right.
than high school requirement. And
we
then
would,
all those
yeah,
classes.
we would count English 12, or, you know, like English 12A as 1 degree, as 1 credit, whereas Comp is 3 college credits. And so it's
Okay.
just the
Okay.
difference between how you count high school credits and
Okay.
college credits.
Gotcha.
Does that
Yeah.
help? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Vorthman to come to the podium. I've asked Dr. Vorthman to present part of our program that we had at the breakfast on Wednesday morning last week. And we had really good feedback about our Trade Works Academy that was presented. Mr. LaFurla was there, greeted on behalf of our foundation, and Mr. Kozar was there and as a representative of the board for us, and it really was received well. Dr. Rossick, one of our main funders of this program, very, very proud of the program and what was presented, and in fact, we met with him again today. Very, very positive moving forward with the project. So I look forward to getting your feedback. The pamphlet that you have, most of you have out, Dr. Borthman will walk you through and take you on the journey of what TradeWorks Academy is for our district.
Thank you. Well, this is a project that I am exceptionally passionate about. I think you have known that from a couple other presentations that I've given, but it's one of those projects where I think you get to work on one time in your career, where you can say, this is something that I was personally invested in and professionally invested in. I was lucky enough to get to visit with my grandpa over the weekend. He's just turned 90 years old. He lives between Council Bluffs and Crescent. And first thing he said to me is, I read about you in the newspaper on Thursday. And he, with tears in his eyes, he said, I'm so proud of you because this is what kids like me needed when we were in school. My dad went to college to be a blacksmith and didn't get to finish college because of some family emergencies, but he could have benefited from a program like this too. And so I see it as an opportunity for us to do something meaningful, not only for our students, but to respond to the urgent needs in our own workforce, in our own economic development initiatives in Council Bluffs. And so that's what I want to share with you today about why we in Council Bluffs schools are not only taking the initiative, but driving the initiative to make sure that all students graduate with a diploma and another piece of paper, and that we address the needs of the workforce now. So the first thing I want to share with you tonight is we have done some work to try to draw some attention to this program and make it have its own identity. And so we are, from now on, referring to this program as the TradeWorks Academy. The Council Bluffs Schools TradeWorks Academy. We have our own logo is designed to represent both how we build the future of students and how we also build the future of our workforce. Because in Council Bluffs Community Schools, we have more opportunities and more choices because trades work. So I want to start tonight with a little bit of data to kind of set the stage for why we're doing this work. According to the most recent 2018 Council Bluffs Chamber of Commerce Workforce Survey, over 5,900 new jobs will be hired in the Council Bluffs area in the next 2 years. That is due to both the creation of about 2,600 new jobs and then the rest of them being in turnover, either to retirements or to lack of retention. And so many of those jobs are in the trades, whether that's in construction or hospitality or HVAC or carpentry. Many of them are in the exact industries that we're talking about today. Secondly, I want to reiterate tonight that while at one time it was almost universally accepted that all students needed to go to some type of four-year school in order to earn a living wage, that is no longer the norm in our society. In fact, of industries that are hiring and needing to hire skilled laborers in our workforce, over 2/3 of those skilled jobs don't require a four-year degree. And so as a community and as a school district, we have to respond to that. And we have to make sure that students have the skills that they need to be able to enter into those high-skilled, high-paying jobs right after high school. What's even more troubling is that more than half of all workers that are currently in a skilled trades are over age 45, meaning that the retirement turnover that we're about to see in the next generation is going to exceed the supply that is available to take those jobs. So we have an opportunity right now to capitalize on the need by producing the supply in our own community and providing those skills to our students now. Next, for every 5 positions that exist right now that are open in trade-related careers, only 1 applicant is qualified. That is an alarming statistic that I know that we can provide a difference in our community and for our students right now. These opportunities are going to continue to grow into the future. This is something that we can deal with right now, and we can also prepare students for jobs that are going to be available for them tomorrow. The U.S. Department of Labor has projected that there will be a 15% increase in jobs in diesel technology and diesel mechanics by 2020, over 24% growth in the construction and carpenter industry by 2024, and an over 30% increase in the demand for welders by 2024. Folks, if we don't do something now, we are about to enter into a shortage of high-paying, high-skilled jobs that our society demands, and we have an obligation to provide the opportunities for our students to do something about it. So when we started with the TradeWorks Academy idea, we were focused on 5 key trade areas, and I've brought you this data before. The reason we landed where we did is because we had good data that suggested that there were 5 areas that students could leave a certificate program with at least an average of 90% placement rate 1 year after graduation and earn a living wage of over $30,000 a year in an entry-level job. Those are jobs that we can be proud of and that students can be proud of attaining right out of high school. So I want to walk you through the booklet that you have in front of you. This is our pamphlet that provides some background information about the TradesWorks Academy, and I just want to share a little bit about each one of the trades areas that we hope to provide students opportunities to explore. These are all of our kids telling our kids' stories. And so what I want to bring you first is the story about mechanics. And I hope you get an opportunity to read some of the testimonials from our own students. The first one is from Tyler. He's a senior at Thomas Jefferson. If he works in this program and completes a certificate degree, he's going to start out at over $40,000 a year, and he can move right into a career as an automotive technician, a service manager, or even being an auto technology instructor. Students like Daquan, who's a junior at Abraham Lincoln High School, can move into a construction career with a 1-year certificate, earning over $30,000 a year right out of high school, and move into a career like a construction, carpenter, a general contractor, or even a framer. The electrical business is booming right now, and with a certificate program, a student can earn over $51,000 a year, 1 year out of high school, and move into a career as an apprentice, become a journeyman, become an electrical service technician, or even be a fire alarm technician. The demand is also high for students who want to go into plumbing, HVAC, and refrigeration. And students like Janique, who I love her quote, she's not afraid to get in there with the boys. She just says, "Boys, step aside. I got this." She could earn over $31,000 a year in her first job as a plumber, as a pipe fitter apprentice, a steam fitter apprentice, or a service manager. And then lastly, you've heard this story before, but students like Garrett. Garrett can earn and is already earning over $32,000 a year with a welding certificate. Right now, he's working in eastern Iowa as a steel welder, but he has a dream to become an underwater welder and will probably have no problem getting hired as an underwater welder, as they are in high demand right now. And as you saw by that first slide, the demand is only going to increase up till 2024. We'll need 30% more welders in our country. As Mrs. Smith alluded to, this is part of a comprehensive plan. These careers that we're talking about in the Trades Academy are designed specifically for freshmen and sophomores to provide them an opportunity to get exposure to all 5 key career areas so that they can continue to narrow their focus until they identify a very specific track that they want to take, identify a pathway on the Career Pathways booklet, and get themselves right into a diploma, a certificate, or a 4-year program. And we've laid out the pathway for them. These on-ramps and off-ramps are absolutely critical as we provide opportunities for students to learn more that they can come off and on their education whenever it fits them and is most convenient for them, not when it's most convenient for the system. So I want to share a little bit with you about the importance of partnerships. And as Dr. Murillo has mentioned several times, our district's goal of making sure that students graduate with a high school diploma and a second piece of paper. This video shares a little bit about how this important opportunity exists in the trades for students to earn a certificate while they're still in high school.
Construction CEOs and various association and academic leaders, NCCER is a non-for-profit education foundation established to develop standardized construction and maintenance curricula with portable, industry-recognized credentials.
NCCER's mission is to build a safe, productive, and sustainable workforce of craft professionals.
NCCER's training process of accreditation, instructor certification, and standardized curricula helps create this workforce.
We need to have a system so that we can evaluate and then recognize the competency level.
Individuals that successfully complete NCCER curriculum through an accredited training sponsor are entitled to these valuable industry-recognized credentials.
Credentials matter because it validates what a craft worker or craft professional knows. Just like a driver's license or any other type of certificate, fitting skills, that's what's important to our industry.
To date, more than 8 million module completions have been logged in the NCCER National Registry. Through a network of more than 50,000 certified craft instructors, thousands of individuals, educators, and contractors and owners have benefited from this documentation of training and skills attained.
The credentials provide an evidence of a standard that our craft workers have met in a national program, a third-party program. We can be pretty well assured that people we hire in different areas of the country have the same skills and the same knowledge that we're used to. That provides our customers with some assurance that they are a qualified and highly skilled participant in this industry. We can take our nationally recognized and portable credentialing system and training system and put that into the global marketplace. Now we can train and recognize workers all around the world for the skills they have and move them to where the construction industry demand is and needs them most.
Your students are spending the time to get the right training. Now make sure they get the credentials they deserve. After all, why wouldn't you want to give your students every possible advantage?
That blue card is a passport for young people. It allows them to go places they never dreamed of.
So this idea of credentials and partnerships is one that we take very seriously. And for those folks that were at the breakfast, they heard this announcement, but it's still exciting to me every time I talk about it. We have worked hard to build partnerships with associated builders and contractors, and we have been accredited as a accredited training and educational facility, both Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson high schools. We're both accredited training facilities that allow them to offer all of our students who come through this program a national certification in construction that will allow them to add a value-added credential after their sophomore year of high school and on the workforce, allow them to have an advantage over those students who do not have it. We could not be more excited about the opportunities that this is going to give our students above and beyond their competition. And to put some icing on the cake, the United States Department of Labor has qualified us as a quality pre-apprenticeship program that allows our students to be able to move right into an apprenticeship right out of high school, one of the few pre-apprenticeship programs in our region. None of this would be possible without Ann and Teresa. They have been fantastic in working with at ABC. Their partnership is going to help us provide both industry-recognized curriculum, as well as provide students who complete the program with the credential in a training facility that not only can be used by our students, but will be open to our own business and industry in Council Bluffs to train not only the next generation of the workforce, but the workforce that it needs advanced training right now in our schools and our training facilities. That's the value add, that's the more opportunity, that's how we achieve more in Council Bluffs Community Schools. So I want to leave you with just an overview of the program, where Dr. Murillo and I try to wrap this all up into one big bow, with one big bow on the top, to provide students a pathway in the trades. The Council Bluffs TradeWorks Academy is a unique opportunity for freshmen and sophomores because it's all about generating exposure and excitement to students in their first 2 years of high school. So the TradeWorks Academy has 5 key areas that prepare students for a variety of careers in the trades. The 5 areas in the TradeWorks Academy include fabrication, mechanics, electrical, construction, and HVAC and plumbing.
Creating partnerships within our community will really allow our students to move beyond the traditional classroom again and have that ability to really see if this is where their passion lies, if this is something that they would love to earn the certificate in and then move on to an associate, or go right into an apprenticeship or a journeyman. This will allow our students to learn from those that are in the industry, in the trades, and we really want to learn from those that are practicing, working, doing, and not just hearing from or learning out of the textbook. This is going to create that opportunity that our students have never seen before by having internships, job shadowing, summer jobs, just the possibilities of where our students can learn from those that are doing the work.
This is like nothing that's ever been done before. Students are going to be exposed to the trades in a way that provides them the hands-on opportunities to succeed and achieve more in the Council Bluffs Community School District and in our immediate community.
In Council Bluffs Community School District, trades work.
We welcome any questions you might have.
Questions from the board?
This starts next year.
Correct. We'll start enrolling students in the fall of 2019.
So, so for the students that are currently in the booklet, I assume we're giving them guidance to go to Iowa Western, like similar to,
Yep.
I believe it was Garrett.
Yeah. So some of these students, all of these are current CTE students, and they are somewhere in the pathway. As we started to build this program and the prototype for the program, we actually offered a new introductory level course this year called Intro to the Trades. That's how we learned that there was so much excitement about it. We have over 150 students enrolled in that intro class. We could offer it more if we had more instructors, but we don't. And so we've already got kids in the pipeline to be able to move right into this program and then articulate into that next sequence.
And how many students will we be able to serve in the actual TradeWorks Academy?
Great question. Our target is 300 kids, 150 at each high school, about 75 in each grade level, 75 freshmen, 75 sophomores.
And the community side of this, the trying to engage these businesses to come in and use these facilities, any early momentum on that, or just curious?
Well, we had a great turnout at the breakfast. We have cards from many interested parties. We had one unsolicited today that I think is a great lead. So I'm not ready to publicly announce any partnerships with any specific businesses right now, but we do know that there's momentum in the community and that this has generated a lot of excitement because it's a need that has gone unfulfilled for far too long.
Do we have a goal in what we're trying to reach with that? As far as we'd like to have 3 or 4 partners at school, or is there some
Take as many as we
vision for
can
that?
get.
Yes, I would like to have as many as we could. If we continue to kind of follow a model that I did with J.E. Dunn, I'm after those that will allow summer jobs, internships, and the job shadowing, And then when the students are graduating, I want them to begin to almost do some speed dating around interviews and start interviewing the students and seeing if they will start investing as the company did with Garrett, and invest in our students and help them complete degrees or complete certification or down that journeyman, and start our students at, we're almost like, we are their top pick. They're investing in our students because they know their future with their company is what they're after. And so creating that culture of inviting people in to invest in our students while they're in our schools because they want to interview and employ them when they leave. And really letting our students get the foot in the door in the company and almost then interviewing them to see if that's where they want to go. So I'd love to see a lot of partners.
Well, I guess one more question on these students. So with all the robotic stuff we've been doing, a lot of that is about development of soft skills for these kids as well. Is there a push in these kids to ensure that we are focusing on that also as we do this trade path?
Yeah.
That these kids are extra employable.
Absolutely. So part of the NCCER certification
Mhm.
is that they have to pass all these soft skill, what they call assessments as well. So not only are they're not only assessed on how well they can actually do a skill, but they have to build their own resume. They have to interview. They have to be able to exhibit strong communication skills. They have to be able to problem solve as a team. They have to be able to work independently. So it's not just an NCCR credential means something. It's not just handing students a piece of paper and saying, good job, everybody gets a
Here's your
certificate. That card, just like that gentleman said, that card means something to industry professionals. And so it's portable, so no matter where they go, it's recognized as one of the industry standards that will allow them to move more quickly into that next step of their career.
And Dr. Borthman, how many districts do we have certified classrooms and instructors that their students would leave with that card in this area?
We believe we're the only one.
We are.
Right.
How about that? We're still working through being a part of the Iowa
Yeah.
Des Moines Chamber, I call it the
Chapter,
chamber
yeah.
chapter, and
Or the
versus
Nebraska chapter.
the Nebraska, because they are so close, the Omaha chapter is. But just to think that our students, and the other thing that we did announce that Mr. LaFerla announced for us is that we are going to open up these opportunities to our surrounding districts. Dr. Rossick has asked me several times about could Lewis Central students attend AL and go through the program if they so wanted, and I said yes, they can. St. Albert's, we talked about other districts allowing their students to come in and take the courses and then go back to their high school. We certainly would welcome that. Yes, of course.
The nice thing about this program is it also doesn't pigeonhole kids into going into one pathway. If they want to go open their own business, they can. If they want to go and use that credential to take them to that next step in their career, they can. If they want to join a trade union, they can. Our main goal is to provide students with the basic skills and the exposure that gets them excited so they can determine, based on what quality of life and the way that they want to lead their life, they can determine what that next step is.
So in these other districts where we're opening the doors, is the hope there that they just decide to come to our schools, or no?
No, I want to make sure that the superintendents feel very comfortable that we are not out to recruit students from their district, but we are here to provide opportunities for our community and our surrounding communities. We'll still receive weighted enrollment for the time that they're here. But I definitely want them to know that because a lot of small rural districts struggle to be able to offer any opportunities because of how low their enrollment is and the funding they receive. So I don't want a small district to fear Council Bluffs trying to expand and take away. But I do think if we offer an opportunity that their students would be interested in, that they come in for a couple hours and then they go back.
If I may? Congratulations on your accreditation. That's a huge deal to get that type of accreditation. That says a lot about your staff and all of your work ethic, so congratulations. Freshmen and sophomores will be the primary focus.
Correct.
How will we keep them entertained after they've received that certificate is my first question. And how will they stay current with their skills for another 2 years? And if we're allowing others to come in from outside facilities, how will they get there if they're freshmen and sophomores? For transportation purposes would be a concern. How do we keep them entertained? And
Yeah.
how do we prevent them from leaving high school to go do that trade now that they have that certificate and not their high school diploma?
So I'm hoping that this is a great carrot that helps students see that this certificate is just their start. Because each one of these pathways is tied to that next step. So just they can start with the NCCER credential, move right into Iowa Western into a 2-year program, or move into a certificate program or a diploma program. We're also hoping that one of the tenets of this program is the use of guest instructors. So what we want to be able to do is not only provide students the opportunity to learn from hands-on experiences, but also learn from somebody who's done the craft 1,000 times and perfected it. And so, as Dr. Merrill mentioned, that next step after that sophomore year is moving into that job shadowing and moving into that internship and then possible employment, so that they see that that pathway continues to get brighter and brighter and brighter as they move through high school.
If I may, that interview process discussion doesn't happen their freshman year or their sophomore year, because they're not
This is
able to
after
handle
they
that.
complete the program.
Okay.
We want to be able to then start providing them opportunities for businesses. Maybe they need 3 electricians and they want to sponsor 3 internships that are paid
internship.
over the summer.
Uh-huh.
That's where we want to move this program.
So that's how we're continuing them across the spectrum of that
That's right.
4 years. And then the transportation issue for
So
outsiders?
my hope is that there are so many that want to come, they bring a bus.
Uh-huh.
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
But I also think that there are opportunities for students who maybe have parents that want to transport them, or they ride with other high school students. That's going to be tricky.
Okay.
I think in our internal surrounding Council Bluffs community, that's easier than it is than from our outside community.
And pretty much all of these employers and the unions require students to be high school graduates before they can employ them.
That is
point.
correct.
Okay.
And I'm also hoping, Jill, that we get the employers to pay for the certificate and the district doesn't have to. And if they pay for that while they're in school, it will be, a lot cheaper. So that's the partnership that we're looking to grow as they begin to invest in students. It's getting them to help us with those areas also.
To piggyback on Jill's question about the junior and senior year, to keep them engaged, are we just focused on this blue, the certificate, the accreditation, or this is also, are we still looking at the opportunity for them to attend Iowa Western for
Yes.
the certificate
Yes,
there?
this is believe it or not, I mean, I sometimes I have to pinch myself when I say this. They get the certificate as a sophomore in high school. They are doing the same work to get the foundational core curriculum #1 that business and industry walk career professionals through as their first certificate. So if Bill decides that he wants to be an HVAC technician right now, he can go to ABC and take the exact same course that we're going to offer our students as freshmen and sophomores. It's the exact same curriculum. So
I
it's
know.
just the beginning.
And Dr. Wolfman, I also think the other piece to that is the training that our staff is going to receive.
Yes.
I mean, that is incredible to know that they're going to train our staff to ensure that that level is high.
Yeah. So if you look at the very back page of your pamphlet, we've aligned our opportunities to what's available at Iowa Western. There are also programs that are available at Metro as well, that are very strong programs. There are also programs that aren't listed here that are available with trade unions. But trade unions also don't want them until they graduate. We found out that very clearly this summer when we visited different trade unions. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit and think, okay, what can we accomplish when kids are in high school that allows them to have that value add that sets them up to be able to make that decision when the time is appropriate for them.
You mentioned the cost of the certificate and being sponsored. What is the cost?
So generally speaking, if you look at this back page, the price that we would pay, because we get a reduced tuition rate, we've negotiated with Iowa Western. Now, I'm going to speak in generalities.
Sure.
So think about the certificate program as about a $2,500 program, a diploma program as about a $5,000 program, and an associate's degree as about a $10,000 program. And those are, obviously, I'm painting with broad brush strokes, but that's about what tuition costs for those programs.
And when you say tuition costs, what is the cost reflected to the student and their family?
Zero.
Can you say that again?
Zero.
Thank you.
That's why it's so awesome.
Then our kids are gonna take the Intro to Home Repair and the Trades as their first,
That's what it is right now, but Deb Goodman,
it's all gonna be built out yet, okay.
she's a rock star, has been working with the folks at ABC, with Paul Hans, our CT coordinator, and our instructors. They just finished 2 full days of curriculum writing with representatives from ABC, laying out what the course sequence looks like for the 2 years of the program. And I wish I was back in high school.
Any other questions? I guess I have a final question regarding the projected number of students we're looking at. What additional training, you alluded to the additional training, but what additional certifications and certificates do the instructors need is the big concern. If we're going to have 300 students, we're going to need more than 2 teachers.
Yeah, so, very good question. We currently are going to try to do some shuffling and some realignment of programs to use as much existing staff that we have and really leverage existing expertise that is already there. And we do believe that we're planning on hiring 1 additional instructor so that we have 2 at each facility. And pair them based on, hopefully based on skills, so that they are able to use each other's areas of expertise. We are going to have to train the instructors though. Some come with very high level of skills in some areas and very low level of skills in others. The thing that I'm most excited about is they are so eager to learn. And so we'll be working with the folks at ABC as well as industry professionals to help get them that training over the next 8 months. And hopefully we have great guest instructors from business and industry that are willing to help come in and show some of our instructors their trade, their master work. Because we are really good at the teaching side. We aren't necessarily really good at the craft side.
With that statement, is there any way that we can address the state and accelerate a program where somebody who would be an industry expert in their field of whatever trade it is, so that they could get an accelerated teaching certificate to be able to be in our classrooms? Because I know several years ago they had talked about maybe implementing an accelerated program, but nothing ever has come about that, whether it would be in a language or any other field. But it seems as if, as you stated, we're really good at the teaching side, but not so much the skill side. How is the state? How can we make the statement to the state and saying, hey, we've got these incredible instructors out there, or incredible craftspeople out there. We've got a demand for the service, but we're not graduating enough students that have teaching students that have these trade skills that we so desperately need. I guess that's how can we push the state?
The state has not been able to figure that one out yet. They are they've loosened up some of the requirements for like guest instructors. That works pretty well, and they put some emphasis behind that. Community colleges can hire folks from the field, but we have this entity called the Board of Educational Examiners.
Right.
And they license people who have to work in K-12, and unfortunately, that system is still very rigid.
So then we just put, I mean, the way that we can deal with it then is move our students more quickly over to Iowa Western or to Metro or whoever has the skilled
Or we
instructors
use guest instructors.
to train our students.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
With that, we have completed our agenda and we are adjourned.